and we're live. So thank you so much. We got an hour together today. It's going to be electrifying. We have some wonderful questions to go over, and hopefully we get a bunch more submitted. The goal of today's call is to have just a wonderful time together to cover things that we can only cover in a live, dynamic context like this. And we can cover whatever you want, with the exception of medical advice. So any question that you have for me, I'm happy to answer. But myself and anyone and anything related to sane or anything related to anything that any of us are related to is not medical advice. So we can't cover medical advice. Everything else is fair game. And if you do have a question for me, please just scroll down to the bottom of the page, type it into that little box where it says, please submit your questions for Jonathan, because that way they go into a wonderful little sheet and we save them. So if by some chance I do not get to them, we will carry them over into the next session so it is not lost. If you would like to chat live with some SANE certified coaches or other Ignite members who are on today's call, you can go ahead, and I know this is going to sound pretty confusing, but see below the video where it says right click here. So if you right click where it says to right click, that's going to take you to YouTube. This is actually a YouTube live. So the chatting takes place actually on YouTube. So you have to leave this page, go to a YouTube page. You can chat live. If you don't want to chat live, that's all good. You can still ask me questions. In fact, if you're chatting live, I don't see it. So if you want to get my attention, please put it in the little box at the bottom of the screen, and please do, because that is the whole reason we are here together. I'm going to answer the questions in order. We do have quite a bit of questions carried over from last session. So if you do have a question for me, please get it submitted ASAP, because I do answer the questions in order. As always, the questions will never be lost. They'll just get carried over to the next session, so you never have to worry. But if you really, really want to get it answered this session, please go ahead and get it submitted ASAP. And please, please remember, there's already a bunch of SANE certified coaches here live with us now. And our SANE certified coaches, with of course some exceptions, are available 24/7, 365. They don't really sleep. In fact, it's part of their job requirement. They're not allowed to sleep. No, I'm just kidding. Of course they sleep, because that's a key part of a sane lifestyle. You got to sharpen the saw. You can't, as Stephen Covey would say, be trying to saw down a tree with a dull saw. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't make any sense to saw harder if your saw is not sharpened. So we got to sharpen the saw. Our coaches got to sleep, but when they aren't sleeping, they are happy to help. So please don't let my inability to answer your question in today's session slow you down or demoralize you at all, because you have the most amazing team of people in the world here to support you pretty much all day, every day, which is really, really exciting. So with all that said, if you got questions for me, please get them submitted ASAP. Welcome again. It is the 3rd of March at 2 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Central, 5 p.m. Eastern, and a bunch of other times all around the world. And we have Ignite family members from all around the world here today. We do have a bunch of questions from last time that we're going to start with. So if you have a question for this time, since I like to go deep in the questions, please get those questions submitted ASAP via the box at the bottom of this page. And a few quick disclaimers. I'm going to talk fast because we've been getting some feedback that we're not getting through enough questions. So I am going to try to go as deep as possible, because that's the whole point of the SANE program. The point of the SANE program is to provide you with the truth. It's to provide you with proven science, practical habits, and powerful love. So we're not just going to give you eat these foods, don't eat these foods, because if that worked, it would have already worked, right? That doesn't work. What works is a deep, loving education and set of practical habits that you internalize and can apply in every area of life, right? If you want to be an effective driver of a car, you understand how you don't need to understand like how a car's engine works, but you understand how to drive. You understand it doesn't matter if the road goes left, if the road goes right, if the road goes up, if the road goes down, if it's rainy, if it's snowy, if it's nighttime, if it's daytime, if it's heavy traffic, if it's light traffic, if you're in a car, if you're in a truck, if you're in an SUV. None of those things matter, because you have an understanding of the system of what's going on. So you can operate. It might be difficult at times if it's snowy, if it's rainy, but you can operate, you can drive, you can get from where you are to where you want to go always. You don't have to keep checking. You don't have to keep looking at a checklist or a top 10 list. You have the knowledge up here that allows you to make decisions in the moment, in any context, to get you from where you are to where you want to go. And that's what we're here to help you with and to provide a community around with the SANE program. So that's a long-winded way of me saying I am going to do my best to give direct answers to questions, but I'm going to try even harder to give you the background that you need so that if, for example, tomorrow someone asked you that question, you could answer it and really know why. You could know the why behind the answer to that question. It wouldn't be just like you memorized the answer, you really understood the scientific and psychological backing, because that's what gives you the power to have a long-term success, that true, deep knowledge and understanding and self-love. So again, welcome. That's a lot of words, and we've only got an hour, so I want to make sure we jump in right away. Please get your questions submitted ASAP, and please also remember the call is being recorded, and please also remember that I am intentionally going to talk fast, and I'm intentionally going to go deep. Your Ignite program, very comprehensive. There's a step-by-step program in it, which is the backbone of the program. And that step-by-step program is like dipping your toe into the shallow end of a pool and then gradually working your way into the deep end as you learn how to swim. Think of these calls as jumping directly into the deep end. So if not everything makes sense, that is 100% okay. Just let it wash over you. It will start to make sense as you work with your SANE certified coaches and as you get more involved in the SANE community, in the coaching and support group, and as you go through your step-by-step program. The calls are recorded, and if you go back and you watch them 3 months from now, 4 months from now, 5 months from now, you're going to be thrilled at how much sense they start to make as you get more of that SANE background. Because what you will experience is that when sanity really sets in above the neck, what happens below the neck takes care of itself. It's surprising. A lot of people think that it's all about what goes in your mouth. In reality, it's all about what goes in your head, because your head determines everything else, both literally and figuratively. So all that said, I'm going to grab a quick drink of water here. And we are going to jump into questions. Let me just make sure there is no problems technically. Everything looks good? Yes? Okay, cool beans. Let's do it. And these questions are not pre-screened, and I am not prepared in any way. So I'm gonna give you the best I can as fast as I can here. All right, so this says, hi Jonathan. I have heard you say that 25 to 30 grams protein per meal is a good target. On my SANE app, is that 1 or 2 servings of protein? That's 1 serving of protein. I'm gonna keep going. I'm used to calculating protein intakes for my job. I know it's not necessary to do this on the program. I just wanted to know. Also, I wanted to ask about how many carbohydrates serves, I think this would say servings per day are okay on this program. I think I exceeded it, especially lately, as I've been on this for maybe 6 months now. And while I lost weight in the first 4 months, I am pretty sure I haven't over the last 2 months. Every other way, I am sticking with the vegetable protein and fat recommendations. I am now aiming for 12 to 13 servings of vegetables per day. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Elizabeth, thank you for this question. These are the kind of questions that I love answering in these sessions, because they're not questions that could ever be answered, outside of a one-on-one dynamic. So again, also great questions for our coaches, but let's jump in this and let's also pull it apart. Elizabeth's first question is, I've heard you say that 25 to 30 grams of protein per meal is a good target. This is the only context, just so everyone understands, where we actually give a crap about grams. And I use that language intentionally to get your attention, because SANE is not a calorie counting, count your macros type of program. If we ever give a number like that, there's a very important and specific scientific reason for it. You notice that we don't specify the amount of grams of fat in a serving, quote unquote, of fat, or the grams of carbohydrate in a serving of carbohydrate. We actually don't even talk about that stuff, really. We talk about food groups. We talk about non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, whole food fats, low fructose fruits, and then stuff that you want to eat so much of those same foods you don't really have room for. So when it comes to non-starchy vegetables, a serving is always framed in the context, and this information is in your program. So I'm going to go really fast in terms of your hands. Leafy green vegetables, what you could hold in 2 hands like this. If you cook the vegetables down and they shrink, it's more like the size of your fist. When we talk about nutrient-dense protein, this is where we actually do talk about grams. but that doesn't mean you actually need to get a scale or anything. I mean, most nutrition facts labels make it pretty clear how much protein, grams of protein are in something. But as a general rule of thumb, if it's a piece of meat or fish, it's going to be about the size of the palm of your hand. But the reason that the grams matter here, and the grams matter regardless of whether you weigh, whether or not your ideal body weight would be 100 pounds or your ideal body weight would be 300 pounds. Two important things about like why we focus on grams of protein per serving. The first is there is a tremendous amount of misinformation about what a good source of protein is. A lot of people have been told that, for example, nuts and beans are good sources of protein, or that milk is a good source of protein. Something is only a good source of protein mathematically. Like this is not a controversial statement. It's just oddly something that I think only the same program has brought up into the world. Something is only a good source of protein if it has more of its calories coming from protein than it has calories coming from carbohydrate or fat. How do we know that? Well, we know that because if a food has more calories coming from fat than it does from protein, well, then it's a source of fat, not a source of protein predominantly, right? We generally identify things by their most, if something's either a carbohydrate, a protein, or a fat, it makes the most common sense and also mathematical sense to say, let's take what it has more of in it than anything else, and we'll call it that. So if, for example, beans are 80% carbohydrate, why would anyone call them a good source of protein? They're 80% carbohydrate. They're a good source of carbohydrate. They're not a good source of protein. Nuts. Again, if nuts are getting 80% plus of their calories from fat, well, let's call them a good source of fat. Let's not call them a good source of protein. Or even milk. Right? An 8-ounce glass of cow's milk contains 12 grams of sugar in the form of lactose and about 8 grams of protein. So if someone calls a glass of milk a good source of protein, does that mean it's an excellent source of sugar? It has 50% more sugar than it has protein. So this is why we have to be somewhat precise when we talk about protein. The other reason that the grams of protein matter is that there is a biological mechanism in your body. I won't get too deep into the science because that would be boring, where if you eat a certain amount of protein, and in reality it's a certain amount of an amino acid called leucine, where when you eat between 25 and 30 grams of protein, and this has to be high quality protein, the serum levels or the blood levels of an amino acid called leucine will generally get high enough to trigger a pathway in your brain called mTOR to signal science something called muscle protein synthesis. The reason this is really exciting is muscle protein synthesis is what it sounds like it is. Muscle protein synthesis. It's your body synthesizing new proteins, which means your body building new tissue. So this is great for a couple reasons. One, if you have damaged tissue or broken tissue in your body right now, and we're trying to build an even better version of you, we have to actually build that. So this muscle protein synthesis is the process of your body doing that. It's synthesizing new tissue, a new and even better you. The other reason this is useful is, as you can imagine, think pregnant women, think growing children, think athletes. Synthesizing new tissue in your body is incredibly metabolically and calorically expensive. It is very, very costly in terms of energy for your body to build new tissue for obvious reasons. In fact, researchers have found that if you can trigger muscle protein synthesis between 3 and 6 times per day, your body can burn an additional 500 to 700 calories per day just by synthesizing new tissue. So think about that for a second. Imagine that you didn't do anything else other than trigger muscle protein synthesis 6 times per day, and by doing that, your body burned an additional 700 calories per day. Do you know how much cardio you would have to do in a day to burn 700 calories? A lot. And that can literally happen just by eating protein in the right doses, from the right sources, and at the right frequency. So because there's this really profound metabolic process that happens at certain doses of protein, that's why we're a little bit more meticulous when we talk about what a serving of protein is in terms of grams. A third reason, it actually relates to the first reason, why talking about servings of protein in terms of grams is useful is if we go back to the first reason where I talked about nuts and beans as an example of not being good sources of protein, but being good sources of fat and carbohydrate respectively, is if you know your goal is to eat 30 grams of protein, you will quickly realize that it is impossible to do that with beans because you would have to eat so many freaking beans, they'd be coming out of your ears. So you know that if your goal is to eat 30 grams of protein at a meal and it would take you eating 10,000 calories worth of nuts, I don't think that's actually true, but I'm exaggerating. It would be a lot of calories of nuts. To get there, you'd say, without even knowing all this other stuff we've talked about here, hey, nuts and beans don't really seem like the best way for me to get to that grams of protein goal. Maybe I should try some tuna fish where I only have to eat like this little can of tuna fish and I get 40 grams of protein. So it just shows you the more concentrated sources of protein. A lot of information there. If you have follow-up questions, please put follow-up in all caps in the question box down at the bottom of the screen, because I will answer follow-up questions before I go on to the next questions, because I want to make sure that we stay on topic and don't jump around, because it's easier to wrap one's head around stuff like that. So that's a lot about protein. For Elizabeth's first part of her question, let's move on to the latter parts, which is also I wanted to ask about how many carbohydrate servings per day are okay on the program. You'll note that nowhere in the program do we actually talk about servings of carbohydrate. And this is kind of interesting when you think about it, because while we do talk about food groups, non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, whole food fats, and low fructose fruits, I could say, oh, we don't talk about fat, carbohydrate, and protein. We talk about food groups. Well, that's not really true, because of the 4 food groups I just mentioned, you'll notice non-starchy vegetables, nutrient-dense protein, whole food fats, low fructose fruits. The word protein is in the second food group, nutrient-dense protein, and the word fat is in the third group, whole food fats. That is because whole food fats specify the types of fat we want to eat. Nutrient-dense protein specifies the type of protein we want to eat. And then, we've never really talked about this on one of these calls before, but the other of those food groups, non-starchy vegetables and low fructose fruits, those are carbohydrate, right? Nutrient-dense protein are protein. Whole food fats are the most desirable set point lowering fats available to us. But what about the other 2 food groups? Well, by process of elimination, we know those other 2 food groups are where we're going to get our carbohydrate from. So when we talk about servings of carbohydrate, we can't really do that, because that's not language that we use in the same program. But we can talk about servings of non-starchy vegetables, and that's frankly unlimited. We're looking for double-digit servings of non-starchy vegetables. And for low fructose fruits, we're looking for anywhere from 0 to 3 servings per day. And the reason it's 0 to 3 is that 0 is there because there is nothing that low fructose fruits do that non-starchy vegetables don't do. So you do not have to eat any low fructose fruits. Now, for someone like Elizabeth, who is saying that she experienced some wonderful, it sounds like she lost weight, which again, we try to focus on measurements, because you can lose weight in very unhealthy ways that lead to weight gain in the future. But I will assume Elizabeth is talking about she gained lean calorie hungry muscle tissue and lost fat. So her body composition changed dramatically. Her body fat percentage dropped very quickly for the first 4 months, and now over the last 2 months it's slowed down. So there's any number of reasons for that. It might have nothing to do with what she's eating. We don't know if there was a medication change, a stress change, a change in her relationship in her life with the people around her that caused either an increase in stress or decrease in stress. Did something happen with her sleep? Did something happen with nutraceuticals? Did something happen with exercise? There's a lot of variables at play, but let's just assume that none of those things changed, and let's assume that it's purely dietary. 2 things to keep in mind. 1, the level of sanity that is needed to get results, right? As you lower your set point, think about it like this. In the old eat less, exercise more model, the amount of weight that you could lose was a function of how little you ate. So if you ate 1,200 calories per day and then you plateaued, the only way to lose more weight was to eat 1,000 calories per day. And then if you plateaued at 1,000 calories per day, the only way to lose more weight was to eat 800 calories per day. And you can see why that model is fundamentally flawed at best and barbaric at worst. It says the only way you can progress is by starving yourself to death, and that's ridiculous. However, there is one sort of thing about that that makes sense, right? Let's use a different example of strengthening muscles. So if you lift 5 pounds in an effort to make your biceps stronger, eventually lifting 5 pounds will not make your biceps any stronger. Your biceps will get as strong as the amount of resistance that you apply to them regularly. So if you can't lift 5 pounds and then you work hard and you develop the ability to lift 5 pounds, if you want your bicep to get stronger, you now need to lift 6 pounds and then 7 pounds, 8 pounds, 9 pounds. Point is, to advance in terms of results, there is a advancement of, I don't want to say effort, because that's not true, because once you can lift 5 pounds, lifting 6 pounds is only as hard as going from lifting 4 pounds to 5 pounds. It's still just a 1 pound increase because you're stronger now. And with sane eating, as you achieve different levels of sanity, if you want your set point to go lower, we need to take you to the next level of sanity. So we need to take your sane eating to the next level. We need to take your sleep habits to the next level. With sane, we want to continue to drive quality up, and that will drive your set point down. What that means is what worked in the first 4 months of sanity to get you tremendous results could and should, frankly, lead to a plateau, just like only lifting 5 pounds over and over again will lead to a plateau. Just like if you were starving yourself, eating 1,200 calories per day will lead to a plateau. But the difference here with sane eating is that what is needed to lower your set point further and to break through that plateau is not difficult. It's not barbaric. It's simply living even better. It's finding even more ways to increase the nutrient density of the food you're consuming. It might be taking up a daily meditation habit. It might be gratitude journaling more so that you lower your cortisol levels. It might be adding some nutraceuticals into your routine. It might be starting eccentric exercise. So hopefully you can see, if the only lever you have to pull to get you results is counter to the way that your body works, like just eat less, like you can't do that forever. You can't just say, well, just eat less, eat even less, eat even less, eat even less. That model doesn't work. But you could, if you're trying to strengthen your biceps, say, okay, 5 pounds isn't challenging you anymore. Lift 6, lift 7, lift 8, lift 9. Eventually there is a limit, right? I'm not sure anyone's bicep can lift 1,000 pounds, but I don't think anyone wants their bicep to lift 1,000 pounds. So when it comes to metabolic change through sane eating, that's when we work with our sane certified coaches to take all those different areas of sanity, sane psychology, sane sleep, sane nutraceuticals, sane eating, sane movement, sane community, to the next level, to change the level of inflammation in our brain, to change our hormonal balance, and to change our gastrointestinal makeup so that our body naturally lowers our set point even further. So in the old model of starve yourself to death, the less quantity, the more weight loss you got. In the same model, the higher the quality, the lower body fat percentage and higher quality of life and less disease risk that you get. Long way of saying there is no amount of servings of carbohydrate that we recommend. There are, of course, things I would say that if you did X for the first 4 months to get results on using the sane method, it is absolutely expected that you're going to want to do X plus 1 in month 5 and X plus 2 in month 6. But again, what's beautiful is while X during those first 4 months may have taken some willpower, It's going to become a habit, and it's going to become easy, and it's going to become enjoyable, so that X plus 1 is not this big freaking Herculean task. And that's really exciting, because starving yourself never gets easier. Eating different foods, but foods that you love and that fill you up, that absolutely gets easier and easier over time, because your tastes change, your cravings change, and what may have taken some willpower to eat at the beginning of sanity is something that, frankly, it takes willpower to not eat later on, because your tastes have changed. And that's really cool. All right, what we got here? Next, how do I get the music to stop? That is not a question. So here we go. Let's see. I can't hear you. All right, so there's someone who's having some technical problems. That's all good. Next question here. Mixed information on diabetics not eating healthy fats and eating carbs, or not eating carbs and eating healthy fats. What is the truth? I can't eat carbs because I'm insulin resistant and it raises my blood sugar. So now what do I eat? I can't eat fruit, grains, beans, starchy veggies help. There is some mixed information out there about diabetics not eating healthy fats and eating carbs, or eating carbs and not eating healthy fats. So there is mixed information, because there are some people who have some agendas, and there is a gigantic industry, and I won't get into the whole nonsense about this, but here is the fact. Here is the fact. No one can disagree with what I'm about to say. If you are a diabetic, I'm going to assume you're talking about type 2 diabetes or adult onset diabetes, because that is the vast majority of diabetic cases. Your body has difficulty with the hormone insulin doing what it needs to do. So if you want to get energy into your cells, we either need to fix the problem, or we need to eat a form of energy that doesn't require insulin to get into your cells. There are two ways that you can fuel your cells: sugar, carbohydrate. Sugar is carbohydrate. Sorry, those aren't the two ways. So sugar / carbohydrate and fat. When you eat whole food fats, or frankly any fat for that matter, it can be used by your body as fuel without the hormone insulin. When you eat sugar, which is any form of carbohydrate except for fiber, that sugar can only be used for energy if the hormone insulin can successfully get it into cells. This is why if you're diabetic and your blood sugar gets too high, you will literally die of blood sugar poisoning. You will become poisoned by the amount of sugar in your bloodstream, because that sugar cannot get into your cells. It can't even potentially get into your fat cells, so it's just building up, and your blood essentially becomes sugar water and you die. So that's why it's a very, very serious condition. I have never seen any actual modern research. So there was a whole theory about fat being bad for you, blah, 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 in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And we could spend 5 hours talking about that. I get into detail about it in the first major published book that I have, called The Calorie Myth. So that'll detail some of the political aspects to it. But long story short, in the modern science from the past 15 years around diabetic treatment that has no industry mishmash going on in it, there is no question that diabetes, type 2 diabetes, is most effectively managed by getting the majority of one's calories from healthy whole food fats, from getting the majority of one's carbohydrate from fiber-rich sources such as non-starchy vegetables and low fructose fruits, and from eating nutrient-dense proteins as advised on a sane lifestyle. There is literally no biological mechanism on the face of the planet that says eating more calories from sugar and less calories from healthy fat will improve the health of a diabetic. None. Zero. If you're reading, it might, there's one person on the internet that I know of who will violently disagree with me, and has publicly. And when you really get down to it, it's not because he's interested in effectively treating diabetics. It's because he is interested in promulgating veganism. There's nothing wrong with veganism. I am not in any way, shape, or form criticizing veganism. But if someone is advocating veganism and you say that the most effective way to eat to treat a disease is incompatible with a vegan diet, sane is not incompatible with a vegan diet, but there are many ways to treat diabetes with food that are incompatible with a vegan diet. The person who has made their living and makes a very comfortable living promulgating that veganism is the only proper way to eat will violently disagree with you. Again, not because they're a bad person, but because they have an agenda, and their agenda is not what is the optimal way of eating to treat this disease. Their agenda is, I've already decided what the optimal way of eating is. It is veganism. It is plant foods. I don't care what the plant foods are. It's no animal foods. I don't care what the animal foods are. It's very difficult to have a conversation with someone about the most effective way to treat a disease with food if they are unwilling to even entertain like 50% of the foods on the planet. Obviously, it's not that 50% of the foods on the planet are from animals and 50% of the foods on the planet are plants. But hopefully you get my point that like our goal here at Sane is to help you, is to help reduce disease risk. Frankly, we don't care what you eat. I personally don't care what you eat. You can eat whatever you want and it will not bother me personally. Whereas there are people who are like super keto and they're like, if you're not keto, you're bad and it bothers me. And there's people that are like super paleo and they're like, if you're not paleo, you're wrong and bad. And then there are people who are like, if you're not vegan, you're wrong or bad. If you choose to never eat sane a day in your life, I know that your life will be better if you made a different decision, but I personally, it's completely up to you how you choose to eat. If you would like to eat according to a sane framework, I promise you that we will not sleep until we find a sane way of eating that is compatible with your specific goals. And if your specific goal is to reverse diabetes, I have seen zero research, actual clinical research, and I know of no biological mechanism at all that says eat more sugar and less healthy whole food fats, like trade healthy whole food fats for sugar to help manage diabetes. That's, in fact, that's crazy. Like that's nonsense. So I'm sorry there's that conflicting information out there because it is confusing, but it's actually very easy to explain. The people who are saying that you should be eating more sugar to manage your diabetes are people who have already said things in the past where if they didn't say what they're saying today, it would make them look foolish or they would lose a lot of money. They're not saying that because it's the truth. They're saying it because they have a vested interest, either personally or professionally or both, in saying that you should eat sugar to help your diabetes. I personally think that's immoral, but that's just me. We're in a small group setting here, so I'm just trying to be honest with you. All right, let me grab a quick drink of water. Hey Jonathan, I've been taking Amia, Lumine, Viscera 3, and Vitae for 9 weeks. I have not lost 1 pound. I see all your videos with people having amazing stories of weight loss. I am continuing on all the products, but wondering if this is atypical. I follow procedure for dosage exactly. I do feel that the Vitae has helped me with my focus and clarity. This is from Valerie. Valerie, first and foremost, thank you for asking this question because it gives me the opportunity to say something that I just don't get an opportunity to say enough, which is, please don't take any nutraceutical that we sell and think that just taking that nutraceutical will cause weight loss. It will not. All of the nutraceuticals we sell are ways to augment and increase the speed of what sane lifestyle changes will accomplish. So in brief, Viscera 3 helps to heal your gut, but it can't heal your gut if you are not going sane, right? It's a little bit like saying, will Neosporin help to heal a cut? It will help to heal a cut, but if you keep slicing your finger over and over again, there's no amount of Neosporin that will help to heal that cut. So lifestyle betterment is always priority one. And once you stop cutting your finger, it is a fact that some sort of ointment can help it heal faster. Sort of same thing with Viscera 3 with your gut, same thing with Vitae for your brain. Amia and Lumine. Amia is useful to help you to make saner food choices. It creates what's known as a lipotrophic environment in your body, which allows your fat cells to drain excess fat more easily. It also helps to reduce cravings. But you can imagine, again, both of those things make no difference if you're not eating sanely. And then Lumine works with your thyroid. It helps to naturally, without any stimulants, raise your base metabolic rate, which can help to lower your set point. But again, if sanity isn't there to begin with, nothing's going to happen. So I would urge you, like Valerie, the key thing to know about any product that we create is the science is unequivocal, right? There is no question that if someone takes penicillin, what that's going to do in their body. It's just a fact. If you take Amia, if you take Lumine, if you take Vitae, if you take Viscera, the benefits that they accrue in the human body are unequivocal. Like they're scientifically proven in humans. Now, whether or not that results in, let's say, the amount of weight loss that someone would want, we don't know and we can't control. Just like if someone is getting cancer treatment, their oncologist can't say, well, I know exactly how this is going to work. I know exactly when you're going to get better, because every case is different. And every case is going to be different here, right? If you have an elevated set point, you have a severe metabolic disorder that has infected your brain, your gut, and your hormones. And it's going to take some time, and it's going to take a tremendous amount of love and compassion and care and science to reverse that condition. I promise, and frankly, what I say doesn't matter, science proves that these nutraceuticals will help with that process. But they can only help with that process if that baseline sane lifestyle is there, because they are, again, building on top of that. They're like, it would be a little bit, think of these as if you're going to drive a car, these are a way to push the gas down like 10% further. Like it'll make the car go faster, but if the car isn't turned on, you can slam on the accelerator pedal as much as you want. They're not going to do anything. So I hope that helps. And please make sure you're working with your SANE certified coach to make sure all of those foundational aspects of your SANE lifestyle are in place, because if they are, the benefits you're going to get from the nutraceuticals, even if they're not as visible as you'd like, as quick as you like, are happening below the surface, period. They have to. Just like if a human being jumps in water, they get wet. Like maybe the water isn't the temperature they'd like, but I can guarantee you that if a human being jumps in water, they will get wet. That's just how water works. And I can guarantee you that if a human being takes Amia, Lumine, Vitae, and Viscera, that they will work in certain ways. Now, the outcome in terms of speed of results or visibility of results may not subjectively be what that individual wants, but the underlying biology is happening and the results will manifest. It just may take more time in different people, and it won't happen at all if the baseline sanity isn't there. So that's why that lifestyle betterment is always step number one. All right, question number two. What do you think about intermittent fasting and longer fasts of 24 to 44 hours? We've got 20 minutes left, and so I'm going to answer this one fast. If you already are at your goal set point and you are fasting because you are a super advanced person who is really into super advanced things, that is fine. If you are not at your goal set point, intermittent fasting and other fasting is a moderate form of an eating disorder that is teaching you to fear food and that food is the problem, whereas it's not. The issue is not food. It is not the frequency that you're eating. It's not that you're eating at all. The issue is the types of foods being consumed. So any thought, process, program that focuses on anything other than what the quality of what you're eating is counterproductive and damages our relationship with food. We need to see food as the single greatest tool, asset, and ally in our arsenal to live better. And if we thought that was true, why would we ever be like, well, the answer to my problems is just to avoid it completely for 24 hours? Like, sane foods are a little bit like, I mean, this is, it's like, I mean, of course you could drink too much water, right? You can drink too much water, but in general, like, why would you just not drink water for 24 hours? Now, look, if we want to have like a deep conversation about autophagy and the super advanced healing benefits of fasting, that's one thing, but I can almost assure you that's not what the person who was asking this question was thinking about, because 99.9% of the time when I get asked about fasting, people are thinking about it as a way to lose weight. Fasting as a mechanism to lose weight is just starvation dieting taken to its logical extreme. Instead of eating 1,200 calories per day, you just eat 0. And now we call it fasting, and we write a bunch of books on it, and we make a bunch of money on it. When if you literally just, like, why doesn't someone just write a book called The 0 Calorie Diet? It works really well. You just stop eating completely. And all these celebrities are losing weight. Who knew if you just starve yourself, you could lose weight, right? It would be funny if it wasn't so sad. Fasting has some metabolic benefits once you've reached your ideal set point weight. Personally, once you reach your ideal set point weight, factually, once you reach your ideal set point weight, you will accidentally fast on occasion. You will get so preoccupied with something that you're going to forget to eat. You won't even notice what's happening, and you will fast. So, frankly, if you're at your ideal set point weight, you don't need to think about fasting, because you will do it naturally at the frequency which is healthy. And if you're not at your ideal set point weight, fasting is counterproductive, so I would highly advise against it. That is the shortest time I've ever spent talking about fasting. It gets me riled up, so I usually spend more time talking about it. Next question, how do you get rid of a fatty liver? Unfortunately, I cannot answer that question because that is medical advice. But what I can tell you is that every single medical diagnosis in the world, every single symptom that a doctor could identify you as having, can be improved by eating so much of stuff that helps your body to heal itself that you're too full to eat stuff that is toxic and poisonous to your body. So again, I cannot answer your question directly, but what I can tell you is that providing your body with more of what it needs to create a healing environment, and so much of that stuff that you're too full to put in it, that which causes disease and dysfunction, is probably going to be very helpful. so take that how you will. Let me see if we get a lot of questions here. Follow-up questions. Okay. This is Emma. Hi, Jonathan. This is Emma. I have been living completely sane, a compliant lifestyle since November 25th, 2020! Exclamation point, yay. I wanted to ask you about the collagen peptide powder. For 2 days, I had 1 glass of 1 teaspoon of the collagen powder mixed with hot water. On the 3rd day, my face and body felt kind of inflamed, like swollen. Is it possible that the collagen will do this initially? I didn't want to continue taking the collagen peptide if maybe my body and face is not reacting to it well. Thank you, Jonathan! Exclamation point. Emma, first and foremost, and this is for everybody on this call, if anything that you hear about here or anywhere else causes major problems for you, please don't do it, right? Who knows? You might have an odd genetic mutation. I don't mean mutation in a bad way, but you know, for me personally, just even recently in the past 5 years, how my body reacts to eating vegetables depends on the time of the day. And I don't know why that is at all. And it didn't used to be that way. But for me, like, I have to eat my vegetables on a very unique schedule. Otherwise, I'm not in a good place. And that's me. And if I said to myself, no, Jonathan, you're wrong. You should listen to Jonathan, because what Jonathan says is you should eat your vegetables evenly divided throughout the day. it doesn't work for me, right? Like our goal at Sane is to do what works for you. So whether it's collagen, making your face melt off, and I'm just kidding, I said your face didn't melt off. That would be very, very bad. Or anything else. I just want to give that quick disclaimer that your happiness, your health is priority number one, not listening to what I or anybody else says. Now, personally, have I ever heard of someone taking collagen of any kind and it causing the type of symptoms you're experiencing? I have not. So I do not know of any mechanism biologically that would cause collagen to do that. That said, if it's doing that in you, maybe try the bone broth product that we create. It's very high in collagen, but it's not pure collagen. I mean, I've never heard of that happening. I know of no reason why that could happen, but if it is happening, that's all that matters. I hope that helps. It's Emma again, and Emma says, so excited to be on this live webinar. For the past year, I got into the habit of having a Ricola cough drop on a daily basis due to incessant coughs. Not sure if the coughs and nasal congestion is due to allergies or flu, but I seem to need the cough drops. If I'm having 10 to 15 cough drops per day, will that impact my effort to live sanely negatively? Well, first and foremost, I would definitely see an ear, nose, and throat doctor if you cannot function without taking 10 to 15 cough drops per day. That is a thing. So in terms of the cough drops, if those cough drops have sugar in them, it will definitely impact your metabolic healing. And most cough drops do have sugar in them. If they don't have sugar in them, they probably have sugar alcohol in them. And if you take that many cough drops with sugar alcohol, you may then have bathroom problems. So I would strongly recommend you go see an ear, nose, and throat doctor about what's going on with your throat. Another just tactical thing, which I have found very helpful, because I used to have major throat problems, and I still do on occasion. There is a tea called throat coat tea, and it has some sort of like slippery elm bark herb or something in it. It's very expensive if you buy it at a grocery store, so don't do that. Go to Amazon, and you can buy these 6 packs of just tea bags. It's called throat coat tea. Throat coat tea. And I have found that to be extremely helpful. And that could be like really helpful for your sanity, because what I was doing when I was having throat problems, and still do to this day when I have throat problems, is I'll take 10 bags of throat coat tea, and they're just herbs, so whatever. There's no calories, there's no nothing. It's just good herbal stuff. Brew it in the morning and just fill up a gallon jug of this tea and drink it throughout the day. So that slippery elm bark provides that kind of lubrication or whatever feeling that cough drops would give you with none of the negative impact. And also that's going to help you to drink an amount of water that is also helpful with lowering your set point. So, and the water will help with your throat as well. So there you go. Hopefully that is helpful. Next question, how does fasting work with Sane? It doesn't. I do not think starving yourself is healthy. That I'm going to go on record. Jonathan Bailor does not think starving yourself is healthy. Does it have benefits in certain very advanced cases? Yes. Is there a benefit to running a 100-mile Ironman triathlon? I'm sure there is some benefit to it. Are there 1,000 reasons that it could be a bad idea? Yes, right? Everything has cost benefits. I did an interview with a doctor from Ohio State named Professor Gary Wenk a while ago, and he was mentioning that in some of their experiments, this is like super early data. He was saying in rodents, they saw that one of the most effective things with Alzheimer's in rodents' brains was like literally cigarette smoke. There was something, and it wasn't nicotine. It was like if the rats were forced to inhale cigarette smoke, it had a beneficial impact on Alzheimer's. So does that mean cigarette smoking is good for you? Of course it's not good for you. The point is that everything has good and bad aspects to it. Everything has good and bad aspects to it. It all does. It's just that some things have way the hell more bad stuff than good stuff. And some things have way the hell more good stuff than bad stuff. So there's always good and bad. Fasting, way more bad than good. And I'll leave it at that. Next question here. Getting some water. Oops, there's follow-up questions. All right. This one is long. All right, so this, let's see what we got. We got 9 minutes left. Cassandra, if you're here, I'm going to have to carry this into the next session. And I would also, I haven't lost it. So Cassandra, the question is not lost. You took a lot of time to write this out, and I appreciate it. I also am going to get it to your coach. If you can type in the chat or email service@sanesolution.com, attention Sue, with who your coach is. I want to get them this information, and I will carry it over into the next session. But we have 8 minutes left, and I can't cover it in 8 minutes, and I don't want to do you a disservice. But it is in the list, so got to come to the next call. Cheryl says, since sane is a lifestyle and not necessarily a diet, how do you factor in drinking alcohol, wine on occasion, and that sort of thing? How do you factor that into your daily living routine on occasion and still keep your goals? Drinking alcohol and wine, as a general rule of thumb, will not help you to lower your set point. So to the extent that you choose to drink alcohol and wine, it will simply slow your set point healing process. Right? There's nothing where we're like, if you do this, you're bad. That is not how we operate here. What we will say is, if you do, to the extent that you make these choices, your set point will not fall as quickly as if you didn't make those choices, right? If you choose to drink Mountain Dew, that's fine. We still will welcome you into the same family, and we will tell you that you will not get results as quickly as if you chose to drink something else. If you choose to drink alcohol or wine on occasion because you enjoy it, that's all good. That's totally all good. And you will not get results as fast as you would if you didn't drink it. So it's like Stephen Covey has a phrase, I love Stephen Covey, by the way, where it's like, you can't pick up one end of the stick without picking up another. And that's a little bit like when it comes to alcohol. Like, you're welcome to drink it, all good. And you're welcome to not get results as quick as you would if you didn't drink it. All good. It's just about understanding that cost benefit. And there's also ways that you can choose alcohol, let's say more or less sanely. For example, beer and malt liquor and sugary alcoholic beverages are like the worst ever, right? They're terrible. Alcohol is not good for you. There's no benefits to drinking alcohol. It's a poison. That's why it intoxicates you. And there's a bunch of other stuff in those beverages that are really bad for you as well, right? Vodka and Coke together is worse for you than just vodka because, I don't know, rum and Coke, vodka and orange juice, whatever. I don't know all the details. If you are going to drink alcohol, wine is better than beer. And ideally, clear liquor is the best because the calories that you're getting along with alcohol are completely insane. They have no healing benefit to your body. So frankly, if you are going to drink alcohol, the least insane way to do it is to take in the alcohol with as few calories as possible. So clear liquor is going to be far less insane than a sugary strawberry daiquiri, if that makes sense. So all good. Whatever you choose to do, all good. You just need to know sort of the pros and cons of doing it. And hopefully this also provides some tactics for if you do choose to drink alcohol, clear liquor, wine are preferable to darker liquors, beer, things along those lines. I can't manage to eat any more than 6 to 7 servings of vegetables. Otherwise, following sane, feeling full, and losing weight, is 6 to 7 servings okay? Absolutely. Absolutely, positively. If you are feeling full and full of energy and losing weight and you're eating 1 serving of vegetables per day, it's fine. Like, I really want to drive home that what is important is you thriving, right? What we try to do here is we try to provide you with a template. We have seen through millions of individuals and tens of thousands of pages of research that if you do things like this and things like this and things like this and things like this, That should help you get results faster and better. If it doesn't, don't do it. If doing something else works for you, do that. But this is what we've seen in science and individuals really works well and works for the long term. I've never seen anybody where the more processed sugar and fat they eat and the fewer vegetables they eat, the better their life is. I've never ever seen that ever. I'm not sure anyone has ever. And I've also never seen someone who eats 10 plus servings of non-starchy vegetables per day, 3 to 6 servings of nutrient-dense protein per day, and 1 to 6 servings of whole food fats per day consistently for many years, and is not thriving at a level that is unimaginable before they started doing that. Never. There is that 100% of the time, if people do that, they achieve dramatic benefit. The only time people don't achieve dramatic benefit is if they don't do it consistently or they don't do it long enough. And what's incredible about all of this is if they do it consistently and if they do it long enough, it's effortless because it's just their lifestyle. It's just what they do. And that's so exciting. So again, if I'm at 6 servings rather than 10, or I'm at 2 rather than 4, or I'm at the key is how you feel, your progress, your long-term viability with going sane. And that is so different than what you've been told. You've been told what matters is that you follow this program to the T. What matters is that you follow these guidelines. What matters is that you eat 6 to 11 servings of pasta and bread per day, right? That's what we were brought up on, the food guide pyramid. I don't care if everyone's becoming obese and diabetic. I don't care if the rates of all major diseases are skyrocketing. The USDA pyramid says keep eating 11 servings of bread per day. False. We got to look at what works for you and what is moving your life in the better direction. And we got to use first principles from science, and we got to use common sense, and we got to use powerful love to get you there. And that's what we're trying to do here in the same program. So with that said, we only have 2 minutes left. So we got to do the homework assignment, and we got to do the My Sanity. So again, if I didn't get to your question, all good. It is here. It will get carried over into the next session. And for our homework assignment for today, we talked quite a bit about protein. So I'd like, if possible, for everybody, as their homework assignment, if you can, next time you go to the grocery store, pick up a container of nuts and pick up a container of beans. And I want you to do just a little bit of math. On the container of beans, I want you to look at the grams of carbohydrate, and then I want you to look at the grams of protein, and then I want you to ask yourself, if there's so many more carbohydrate than protein, how could this be a good source of protein? And then for the fat and for the nuts, it's going to be a little bit more complicated, but stick with me here. You're going to pick up a container of nuts, which, remember, if the nuts are raw, they are a whole food fat. They're good for you. This is no criticism against either one of these foods. Once you go to the grocery store, I want you to pick up a bag of maybe raw almonds, let's say. And I want you to look at the number of grams of fat, and I want you to multiply that by 9. That gives you the total number of calories in a serving from fat. And then I want you to get the total grams of protein and multiply it by 4. That'll give you the total number of calories from protein. And then you're going to compare the total number of calories from fat and the total number of calories from protein. And you're going to say to yourself, how could this thing possibly be a good source of protein when it has that much more fat than protein? So I want you to have that experience because it is really important to understand what truly is a good source of protein and these protein myths that we've been told. Boom! Well, I hope you had a good time on today's call. It has been an action-packed call full of wonderful questions. And if you can't tell, I am a little bit, what do you want to call it, loopy. Got, as you may or may not know, 2.5-year-old as well as a 5-month-old. Sleep has been a little iffy recently. So hopefully this has made sense and just has not just been the babbling of a sleep-deprived daddy. So I hope it's been useful for you. It's been really enjoyable for me. I'm so grateful that you're here speaking for myself and every member of the Sane family. Truly, we are only here because you are here. You have trusted us with your health. You have trusted us with money. You have trusted us with your time. And we take that trust incredibly seriously. So thank you very much. And if there's anything that any of us could be doing better, please let us know. We're always looking to improve. We're so grateful for you being here. And all that said, let's close with the My Sanity reflection, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, please talk to your SANE certified coach. We'll get you a copy of it. Highly recommend putting this up on your fridge, putting it next to your desk, reading it out loud twice per day, because it really captures what it means to be sane. And again, thank you so much. Blessings, all the sanity in the world. I'll see you at the next session. And in closing, this is my sanity. If just tell me what to eat, like what the hell is this guy talking about? Just tell me what to eat. If that approach worked, I guess I'd be eating it already. If counting calories and points so precisely worked, I guess I'd be thin already. If trying to be perfect, whatever the heck that means, worked, well, I guess I'd be perfect already. If quick fixes and all those fad diets and shiny new things, if those worked, well, I guess I'd be fixed already. So what works? Well, what haven't I tried yet? Calm consistency, unconditional self-love, calm patience, sane eating. That is what works. To achieve a different result, I will take a different approach. Living sane works. It will. It's proven biology. So I will give myself the courageous consistency, unconditional self-love, calm patience, and proven science and proven sanity that I deserve. And with just 6 months, like I've been doing this for 40, 50, 60 years, and in just 6 months of patient, consistent, and self-loving sanity, I will permanently enjoy the energy, body, health, and happiness of my dreams. I will be sane. Thank you so much. Blessings, love, sanity. I will see you in the next session. Bye-bye.